And now for something completely different.
Forget everything you've been told by others before. Get ready for the real deal. The full story. Real talk about money, markets, life. Now, it's The Real Investment Show, presented by RIA Advisors.
And good morning, or good afternoon, depending on whenever you're listening to the podcast. And this is the Financial Fitness Podcast. We don't like no money flabby around here. We want it tall and glistening. Whew, it's getting hot in here. But we're glad you're here. The sexiest word in finance is not compound, it's Roth. Not Hyman Roth from The Godfather. I never portrayed your father, Michael. Look up The Godfather, you youngins. Watch a movie. I mean, a real movie. Without CGI. Godfather 1, Godfather 2. Please forgive us for Godfather 3. God still hasn't forgiven us. Since then, the whole world's gone to hell. So Roth is the topic today. And people who listen to us know we are big, and have been big Roth fans for a decade. Now it's in. It's hot. It's this. It's that. Everybody loves Roth, right? But we have always said you diversify your assets. But diversification of accounts is very important. You have pre-tax, you have after-tax, most likely taxed at favorable capital gains rates, and Roth accounts, which are completely tax-free, right? They go in after tax, they come out the earnings, and if you hold them long enough, right, everything comes out tax-free. This allows for a very tax-efficient, flexible retirement income strategy. So I understand we got the big, beautiful bill, and that's fine. We are $38 trillion as a country in debt. So it's easy to understand why we believe ultimately marginal tax rates are headed higher. And retirees understand how it is very easy for their incomes to surpass the lower tax brackets with the taxation of Social Security benefits included. So when I first started in this business, I took my buggy and my buckboard to the school and got my learnings. The one thing we were told is that when you retire, you are going to fall into the lowest tax bracket. And for a period of time, that was true. And on the surface, for some of you, it still might look true until you consider your holistic tax picture, which doesn't just include federal income tax. It also includes taxation on Social Security and these pesky charges called IRMA. How come they don't name kids IRMA anymore? Do they name kids? That's got to be a pot. Irma, Edith, come in for dinner. No! So, Irma, Edith, how do you like school? Closed. So, the one thing we keep in mind is that, especially when we work with younger people, Roth is a part of your overall arsenal for savings. And for those people that are in or close to retirement, Roth can still work. We're going to talk a little about a study that modeled hundreds of thousands of retirement scenarios to determine which Roth conversion strategy performs best over a 10-year period. And there have been studies out there for Roth that show even if you're going to be in the 15% bracket, that Roth can still work. So ultimately, you got to remember mainstream finance and what they look for, right? They want people to maximize contributions to pre-tax accounts. It's all about savings taxes today. And that could be an effective strategy for accumulators. You know, as careers advance, incomes grow, people get close to retirement, they should have a plan to diversify their accounts. So there's this retirement income smile. I think there's also a Roth account smile or a retirement account smile. And tell your kids and grandkids this if they're starting their first jobs out of college. And heck, even if they've got jobs working at the local supermarket, delivering newspapers, or whatever the heck they do, you can still do custodial Roths if they are below the age of majority, which is what I did for my daughter. And then it became her Roth, and she contributes to that on an annual basis. So when you're first starting out, so let's take it in 3 stages, and then we'll talk about the study last. But let's talk about the stages of life for everybody, where Roth fits into everybody's scenario. I'm 23 years old. I'm just starting my new job. I go to my benefits administrator, and they say, oh, yeah. And I talk to people around me, got to do pre-tax, got to save taxes now. Oh, okay. I'm just starting out, right? I'm in pretty much my tax bracket's pretty okay, but it's not where it's going to be, right? I'm not in my peak earning years. So savings taxes now is not such a big deal. So why don't I start the one side of the smile in Roth? I am going to do Roth out of the gate. 23 years old, I'm going to do Roth 401k. And we are going through, by the way, the Rothification of America, which, by the way, we've been talking about for a very long time, that eventually Roth was going to be the king because the government is J.G. Wentworth. They need the money. They need the cash now. Now I got that earworm in my head. I need cash now. Go away. So one thing keep in mind is if the government needs cash now, they like Roth too. So people go, oh my gosh, but eventually Roth is going to go away because the government's going to focus on it. Well, listen, it's like focusing on an ant versus the fatted calf of your pre-tax accounts. You see, that fatted calf of pre-tax money you've been accumulating, the government goes, they're drooling over that. They're finding ways to leak that money to get it. So I wouldn't worry about Roth now, not in your lifetime. Probably not even in your kids' or grandkids' lifetime. There's not enough in there to worry about. Pre-tax is still the king. So I'm starting out, I do Roth. Now, as my career progresses, I start to go, I'm moving up in marginal rates. Really starting to hit. But I've already got this part of the smile in Roth. Guess what I'm going to do in my high tax years? I'm not going to totally poo-poo. Poo-poo. We were talking about French today, so I'm trying to throw in my French accent. It's not working. Poo-poo. Well, that almost sounded like, what's his name? Yogi Bear. Hey, boo-boo. You got to keep this in mind. When now in my higher earning years, I now can shut my Roth off. Say I'm 35. And I've done Roth for 12 years. Okay. I've got this bucket started. Looks great. Now I want to save taxes now. I'm making more money. Now I'm going to start filling my pre-tax bucket. So, right, I'm diversifying my accounts. And I'm going to do that for a good period of time. Maybe 5 years before retirement. And at that 5-year benchmark, closer to retirement, I could see it coming. We call it the right lane. We're exiting. We're headed off the road. We're going to retirement. I'm going to switch my current plan contributions from traditional to Roth options. And frankly, we're going to talk about one of the changes because, frankly, if you are 50 plus, you make $145,000 more a year, and you do catch-up contributions, those are going to be in Roth. The government demands it. There's a J.G. Wentworth mandate that you're going to have to follow. So think about this. Now I'm going to go back to Roth. So I'm going to start with Roth at 23. And again, I'm making these ages up. It all depends on, maybe you're some wonderkind and you're starting to make big money in your 20s, and that's fine. Maybe I switch then, but you get the point. I want to fund both accounts. I want to balance those accounts. Once then I have making more money and I'm maxing out my pre-tax, I might decide that I'm going to do a brokerage account, a plain old vanilla brokerage account. and I'm going to really have this by the time I retire on the upper end of the smile, I am going to have a nice mix of pre-tax, after-tax, and, more taxed favorably accounts. So think about when you have distributions tax. So I work with somebody who wants to buy a home, sold their old home, but the money is sitting in cash, waiting for markets. They're in a new market, so they're waiting. In our retirement planning software, so we're going to move away from the younger people. So talk to your kids and grandkids about the retirement savings smile and starting with Roth. Okay, because that's what we suggest people do. Start off, as their friends are looking at them like they're freaks, pre-tax, and then to Roth again as they get closer to retirement. But the thing you want to keep in mind is working with someone. When we do our retirement income hierarchy, if you will work with programs, you work with technology every day. It's just a part of our lives. It's like we live and breathe. You have global settings. You have settings on your software. Your company sets them. We have settings on our retirement income software where we draw down tax-deferred accounts first, taxable, then tax-free. And sometimes there's a period where that doesn't work. For each client is looked at differently, and sometimes the client's withdrawal hierarchy is going to be different. So if a client wants to make a big purchase, say, listen, I want to spend $800,000 on a house and I don't want a mortgage. Okay. All right. I have some money from the sale of my old house. Great. So ultimately, I'm going to have to withdraw probably maybe $400,000 or $500,000 out of my accounts to get the house that I want, my dream house in retirement. Want room for my grandkids, right? I want the amenities. I want the pool. We stay at home a lot. That's fine. Listen, if you have the money to do whatever you want, we're here to help you hit the goal, right? Just like, oh my God, why would you want to own a house? Well, if that's what you want, that's what you want. If you can afford it in your goals, more power to you. So if I use my hierarchy of tax deferred first and I'm pulling $500,000 out of my IRA, what do you think it's doing to my tax situation for that year? And what do you think it's doing to my plan? It's effectively deteriorating it. It's eroding it a bit. Because not only am I taking out $500,000, I've got the taxes on $500,000, and then I got a tax waive of IRMA and Social Security taxation. So you can see where overall diversification of accounts. So when I had to reshuffle the withdrawal strategy, where he would be taking taxable first because of that big goal, and the plan kicked right up into place. The beauty of flexibility or diversification of accounts cannot be understated. If you put all your money in pre-tax, everything you want to do, everything you touch is taxed as ordinary income. What about if I wanted to? I once had a craft somewhere where someone wanted money to buy a car. And thankfully, we were able to pull some money out of tax deferred, brokerage, and a little bit of Roth to maintain within the tax bracket that they needed to stay. Or we were just at that verge of where IRMA was going to kick in. The crafting of retirement income can't be understated when it comes to Roth. So just keep that in your little mind. And again, you're going to see changes to your retirement accounts next year. You will have a Roth 401k. And most companies already have it, but now it's going to be pretty much mandatory you have it for people who make catch-up contributions and make over a certain adjusted gross income limit. So years ago, Roth was just a sidebar. No one thought about it. Now it's mandatory. So, which I think is great. Actually, I hate to say that. I think this is a good idea coming from the government. Blah, blah, gotta go wish out my mouth. Blah, good idea from the government. One, pushing people into Roth, they think is good for them, but it's also good for you. So you might be shocked, wait, I'm making all these catch-up contributions. I'm a great saver. And that money is being forced into Roth 401k. Yeah. So, but people get confused. They get confused between Roth 401k and Roth IRA, right? Many people have a hard time funding Roth IRA, especially people established in careers, because there's AGI limits. And you can't put so much in, right? We know IRA contribution limits is you're sort of stunted, right? You cut off at the knees. Roth 401k is a 401k. It's just that everything goes in after tax. So if you are in the situation 5 years from retirement and you don't feel like you want to switch to Roth because you still feel like you're in a higher tax bracket, listen, you're making catch-up contributions. They're going to Roth. And if your employer matches, they should have the ability to push that money into Roth as well. But you're going to get Roth whether you like Roth or not. If you're a good saver and you're making catch-up contributions and you make more than $145,000, yeah, you're going to have Roth whether you like it or not in your retirement plan. But there's nothing wrong with that. So, to the study, and then we'll wrap things up. When we run decumulation software, in other words, we have two levels of planning. First level is your basic foundational planning, which obviously covers everything. And we touch a little bit on decumulation, where we get certain triggers in place to say, oh, this person needs Roth conversions. They're open to it. The numbers work. We're going to now go to level 2 planning, decumulation, which is focused solely on creating a tax-efficient retirement income for the rest of your life. The craft of withdrawal is very important. And when we do Roth conversions for people first will go, am I even eligible? I hear all this about Roth, and conversion. Should I do it? That's one of the most popular questions we get today. Should I do Roth? And the answer to the people is, I don't know, until we run the numbers. I will say that Roth has definitely become a more formidable legacy tool. So in other words, you have you followed the staid, boring, usually wrong Wall Street advice of putting all your money in pre-tax. And you say, gosh, we're never going to outlive, this money is going to be here long after we're gone. My wife then is my beneficiary, or my husband. They get the money. We project they're still going to have money left. The children become beneficiaries. They're non-spousal beneficiaries. Before the big changes that occurred to Secure Act and so forth requiring taxation, if your children inherited your pre-tax IRA, they'd be able to draw that money out over their life expectancy. Pretty cool. Okay. Here I am, two parents are gone. Daughter's 35, 37, 40. She's got a great life expectancy out of her. She could take that money out of her life expectancy, allows tax deferral to grow longer. But then the government comes in and goes, uh-oh, fatted calf, let's take a stab at it, and says, no, not anymore. If you die and your children now have to take that money out generally over 10 years. In other words, they have to liquidate that account over 10 years. And if your children are in a higher or respectable tax bracket, you're going to push them into the stratosphere and deteriorate that money at an expeditious rate. So Roth becomes a great legacy tool. Yeah, sure, my kids have to take the money out over 10 years, but who cares? Matter of fact, let it sit there as long as possible, and on the 10th year, take it out completely tax-free to your children. So the Roth IRA has become more of the legacy tool than the pre-tax traditional accounts. But when we run these Roth conversions of analyses, they are what we call front-loaded. And that's based on studies out of Harvard and based on how things work. In other words, we give people shock. The first years of conversion, even up to, say, RMD age, say 73 or 75, respectively, people go, oh my gosh, I am taking huge chunks of pre-tax money. I'm getting taxed up the woohoo. Yeah, but we're looking at your taxation over time. Not only that, we're looking at moderating your IRMA charges. Because listen, frankly, if you have all your money in pre-tax, the way the IRMA cliffs go when it comes to taxes, the brackets, a lot of you are going to fall into it, especially if you make a big purchase. You're not going to be able to avoid it. So we're at least trying to moderate the band of how much IRMA, and no, IRMA is going to be tacked on to your Part B and Part D premiums. So you get your base premiums, but once you make over a certain modified adjusted gross income, you get hit with these charges, and you don't really understand them because they're not in your face, but they are part of your overall tax burden that you take on. So there's this front loading of RMDs, of distributions, and then we level out, and over time we let that Roth grow. Maybe we never touch it. Maybe we touch it last. And what we show people is how much in lifetime taxes they're going to save. And if they're doing that, they're leaving a greater legacy for their kids or grandkids, whether they want it, or charities, whether they want to or not. But you got to run the numbers. So Roth conversion is not, it can happen anytime. Preferably when you're retired, because I could use Roth 401k and Roth IRA before I retire. So with Roth conversion, what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer the funds from a traditional IRA or IRA to Roth, and I'm going to pay income tax on that balance that I move. So taxed as ordinary income. So, and what we prefer, so if say I have a client that just did a Roth conversion for $100,000, we don't want to withhold taxes from that. We want to move $100,000 from traditional IRA to Roth and have the taxes paid from an outside source. But keep in mind, that surge that I'm going to see in income will maybe happen if I was a retiree, and it could still affect me because Medicare looks back 2 years. It's going to affect Medicare, and of course my taxation on Social Security, I'm going to be taxed at 85% of my Social Security will be taxed. But then that money grows tax-free. I don't have to take required minimum distributions from it. Don't have to worry about that. And I can let it sit. So some people will say, hey, listen, I'm going to earmark this, because that's how people look at things. They put money in tiny little boxes, and I hate that because money's fungible and it flows through your whole life. But if you want to do some mental accounting here, that's fine. This is my Roth money is the money that I never want to touch because I'm leaving it for my children and grandchildren. Okay, perfect. Nothing wrong with that. Or it's later in life and I have maybe I have long-term care expenses, but I don't want my taxes on Social Security. Well, maybe I start drawing from that tax-free for larger expenses that come up later in retirement. But sometimes, and there's a study about doing one-time Roth conversion, makes sense in most tax situations. And the author modeled returns to the average retiree 10 years into the future, regardless of the balance size or the tax hit, right? So let me explain the concept to you. I've always been a big fan in huge upfront loading Roth conversions. I'm going to get hit with the pain now, rip off the Band-Aid, and then I let it sit. And most of our planning software follows that. Like the first 3 to 5 years, people are swirly in the head going, oh my gosh, the taxes are killing me. But then they understand they're in the clear. But for some people, emotionally, even though the numbers work out, emotionally, it's not going to go with the grain with them. They can't do it. That's okay. So we're going to draw it out longer. We're going to draw out these conversions over 5 years, 7 years. We're going to take them down a bit, right? We're not going to hit you in the head so badly. And some people want that Band-Aid ripped off slowly, but you will pay for it in the form of more taxes paid over a lifetime, less to legacy. But you're willing to deal with that because the tax hit up front is just too much for you to bear. Or you don't want to take so much out of your after-tax liquid assets. So I totally get it. So everybody's going to be different. So maybe you won't save $200,000 in taxes throughout your lifetime. You'll save $150,000. You're willing to give that up. That's a personal choice. We model that as well. So the methodology that they used is they had $1 million starting balance and considered the results of each portfolio 10 years after retirement from age 73, when RMDs would currently take effect, to age 83. So now people are going, wait a minute. I'm going to start doing Roth conversions and RMD? Yeah, you could do that. In other words, once you start RMDs, what we will show people is here's your required minimum distribution, which is the amount of money you must take out, or the government going to ding you hard. We say, okay, maybe you're not going to do this big front-loading Roth conversion, but how much wiggle room do we have in your marginal tax bracket? Can we take out more than the RMD? So you take the RMD and then we take the rest and move it to Roth? Sure. Do it all day. Perfectly fine. So what they're looking at is, okay, they have a scenario. The investor sticks with a traditional IRA, has to take RMDs. They model a distribution, which will be about $39,000 in the first year of this retiree's life. Once the RMD is made annually, right, it's taxed at the marginal rate. It then, say, people have to take RMDs no matter what. Like, you can't say, well, I don't need the money. Yeah, I'm sorry, got to take it. You can move it to your brokerage account and then let it get taxed if you invest it at long-term capital gain rates of 20%. And any money that's left over at the end of 10 years is pulled out all at once, taxed at the marginal tax rate. But then what they did in the study, they modeled Roth conversions in two different ways. They assumed a one-time conversion where the investor just takes the full $1 million, pays taxes at the marginal rates, and deposits it into Roth. Then, okay, I'm woozy now. I'm woozy. Lots of blood loss. The IRS is calling me going, Rosso, thank you for your contribution to the illegal food fund. No, I'm kidding. Welcome to your contribution to the border wall or whatever. But you're going, oh my gosh, I'm woozy. I'm going to get taxed on $1 million. Go with me here. I understand you're woozy. Sit down. Sit down. Have a donut glazed. Now I want a donut. All right. So at the end of 10 years, they pull it out all at once, taxed. Then they modeled it in two different ways, which is trying to add real life to it. They assumed the one-time conversion, like I said. The second they modeled was gradual. And that's what a lot of people do. So it was similar to the one-time method, but they pulled 1/10 of the portfolio out each year and put it into Roth IRA. So taxes are paid on each conversion. And if there's any money left in the traditional IRA after 10 years, the money's pulled, taxed at the margin rate. So see, we got two paths. And these are normal paths that we would follow with clients. What I want a client to do is do the $1 million up front. What the client can do without falling down and dying and crying like a little girl in a corner is gradual. And somewhere we come up with a compromise, right? So what they found is across all tax regimes investigated, no matter where you're going to fall in the brackets, the one-time Roth conversion yields the best final balance. So using this method, an investor is going to yield an average difference in final balances of $110,000 over the 10-year period staying in the traditional IRA or making the RMDs. So it's going to be $1.44 million versus $1.33. What's more, you got to consider life expectancies. The longer you live or don't need the money, the greater the benefits of doing the Roth conversion. The advantages of switching to Roth IRA grows by about $15,000 extra every year that a person lives past the age of 83. So there are other studies that show this front loading. This is a study out of, I think, Costello College of Business at George Mason University. And it's a great study, by the way. But there's also studies out of Harvard and other schools that do show. And even when we run the numbers, listen, say, I don't poo on those Ivy League poo heads. I don't need them. I'm a welder. Well, more power to you. But what I'm saying is in our software where none of these studies exist, we show you that. The only thing I can say where Gradual might work, I'm a young retiree. Say I'm 62 years old. And I'm not making the same amount of money. Well, up until RMD, I certainly can look at a gradual conversion process. But even then, even though it's gradual, because again, now if I'm 62 and say I could live to 83, 85, man, that's a lot of time in Roth for that money to grow tax-free. So what we have people do is do gradual, and that doesn't hurt as much. But even those people that retire, as the study would say, at 62, 63 and want to get more aggressive and do more front loading, well, that Roth pool looks really good at the end. Really good. And their IRMA is stabilized. And listen, they're not going to avoid taxation on Social Security, but maybe it's not at 85%. Maybe there's more being taxed at 50%. The whole goal of what I'm trying to explain to you here is this. The old rules of putting all your money in pre-tax accounts, because there's some sort of magical nirvana, has not ever been the case. There was a period of time it was, but not for long. Now, that doesn't mean you disdain or stay away from pre-tax, but you use it as a tool. For those years you're at the peak of earnings, the peak of taxes, and you want to give yourself a little tax relief? Yes, because everybody's retirement account strategy is more art than science. It's more of a mosaic. It's more messy. But that's what I love about it. I love that it's so personal per person. Who they're going to leave the money to, how they feel about taxes. You learn so much about yourself, and your advisor learns so much more about you with a retirement decumulation plan than they do in the accumulation side. Because let me say, and we always say, the transition, and everybody's going, oh my God, he's going to use the example of tool time again. Yes, I am. If I'm Tim Allen in Tool Time, and if you haven't seen that show, I think you won't believe it, Brent. They brought it back. Like when I bring up my Hulu, like it shows that there is a sequel.
Yeah.
To Tool Time.
Yeah.
You know about that?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
When is that now, or has that been? That was.
I think it's this year. It started.
Have you seen it?
I have not.
We know Wilson's dead.
Comes on after my bedtime.
Is Wilson like a ghost on the other side of the?
I don't know.
See, now I got to watch it. So
you should watch it next week and report back.
I will do that.
Okay.
Because I have no life. No, but I do see it. I want to see it so bad. And they still have all the. So it's him. I think it's the same. I think it's almost the same cast.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love Tim Allen shows. He's got one where he owns a car garage and his daughter moves back, but he owns his car garage for unique cars and so forth. And it's almost like the same show, But it's the line. He's just the way he delivers his lines.
Yeah.
I just love everything that Tim Allen does, man. I think
he's like Mike Rowe. You could watch Mike Rowe read the phone book.
You know, I think were they separated at birth, those two?
It may have been. Yeah.
I'll have to find that out. I like Mike Rowe too.
Yeah.
And any book he recommends, he's got a really why men don't work is a book. I'm paraphrasing it, but it really does go through the studies of why we've lost some of our work ethic in the country. It's not a long read, but it's actually very good. So when you, like I had said, you had learned so much more about people in the decumulation phase than accumulation phase. All these hidden fears that as good as you are as an advisor, all these little hidden fears tucked away in the nooks and crannies of everybody's psyche explodes out like after a meal at Taco Bell. Brent didn't like that. I'm trying to get Brent to fast. This is my way of doing it. You learn because some of your greatest fears going from Tim Allen on one side of the fence to Wilson on the other. That crossover risk, that psychological crossover is, for many people, life-changing. And you as an advisor are privileged to be part of it. And I didn't use the wrong word, privileged. Because you will learn so much about that client and what other people are going to face. Because if I'm a 30-year-old advisor and I'm working with a 70-year-old, I don't have any idea what decumulation looks like. That's so far away for me. It's so foreign to me. But I am going to learn about pathos. I am going to learn about what makes this individual tick, what scares them. And that's going to help me as an advisor to help the client. So don't be poo-pooing Roth too easily. Understanding that your strategy may be very different, because I know everybody got to talk to their neighbor. What are you investing in? Oh my gosh, I made more money than Nancy Pelosi. I just don't publish it. Because every investor you talk to is always like, oh my gosh, I made all these great trades. They never tell you anything about the bad stuff. So yeah, see Nancy Pelosi's return? I did that like 1 year and then I moved on, man. I was like double it. Okay. That's also the same neighbor that told you to take Social Security early and, all this great stuff that you shouldn't listen to. Because your retirement income strategy is yours. It is the one thing that is truly and solely you compared to your neighbor. So any advisor you work with, Roth or no Roth, it's very important you understand and keep your mind open to different ideas. And frankly, if you're working, you're going to be forced to next year. And as we are recording this before Thanksgiving, we are going to be forced to eat luscious turkey and stuffing and mashed potatoes. Man, I love Thanksgiving. I go into a dinner roll coma. Now, I did not know this. Texas Roadhouse. If you have never been to a Texas Roadhouse, but the rolls.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
With honey on them.
Yeah. So before you die, like if I was in prison and they said you have a last meal, I'm going to want to roll around naked in Texas Roadhouse rolls and eat them along the way. That's all I want. Texas Roadhouse rolls. I didn't realize you actually can go and order them.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Which means all I need is that in the gravy. I don't even need the turkey.
Well, I know what you're getting for Christmas.
No, don't do that. Listen, that is the absolute worst thing for your diet. And the problem is I have so much discipline. My girlfriend says, you cannot read anything or do anything unless you are learning from it. Isn't that frustrating? I'm like, it's frustrating for you, but not for me. I mean, I want to learn. Anything I take on is to learn. To grow my mind, think differently. Because that's where I'm benefit to my clients and to my firm is by accepting new ideas. Most advisors dig in their heels, especially at my age. They're throwing rocks at other advisors from the lawn. Young nabbit, if it's not broken, don't change it. No, you've got to break things as an advisor. You've got to break things, especially in this age of AI. Like Elon Musk goes in and breaks things and then reinvents them. You have to do that as an advisor. You can't be set in your path, your process, especially now. And considering decumulation and Roth is something you, as an investor, needs to accept. And at least run the numbers. May not be right for you, but be open to it. And I hope you all have a great holiday, a great Thanksgiving, no matter what you're doing. And remember, the one important thing about this holiday that I really love, and I try to practice gratitude every day, but be grateful. When my girlfriend gets mad at her mom, taking her mom to see Gene Watson, by the way. I got a mom date. They may not be here next year. Be grateful for those around you who you love, because it's a fleeting moment, everyone. It's fleeting. I appreciate you and grateful for people who listen to us on the podcast. You all take care. Thanks for tuning in to Financial Fitness.